Caleb Max's grandson just came in, and Rabbi Kessie Deitch will do the benediction later. Thank you, Tom. Can I introduce you, or do I need to introduce you?
No, it's fine.
Anyway, okay, very good. Well, here's another pragmatist that felt. One of the things you guys don't realize, there was opposition to widening I-66 through Arlington. Frank and Tom, about 15, 20 years ago, got the funding to at least get a westbound lane widened under the guise of Homeland Security. That's kind of pragmatism that we're looking at. You may be laughing, but the fact of the matter is that Arlington and Falls Church have bitterly fought capacity on I-66 inside the Beltline. I'll address that later. Congressman Tom Davis, thank you. And his wife, JeanneMarie, former state senator, just came in. Do you want to speak after or no?
And thank you. It's always hard to follow my friend Frank Wolf. The irony of this is here in Vintners, and Frank and JeanneMarie and I are teetotalers. But I think Frank had some Red Bull before he got up and spoke to them. He was animated as and great remarks as always, Frank. I'm happy to be here for Ken. My wife held this seat for a term and represented this area for 6 years in the House of Delegates. Prior to that, this is a very, very critical election. The control of the legislature is at stake. I think, as you know, everybody's up this year, House and Senate, and everybody's running in a new district. The Democratic nominee in this district is a 33-year-old kid who lives at home with his parents, but he's a progressive. And he just rode that to victory in a Democratic primary with a very, very small turnout, outspent something like 20-1. But it tells you the direction the Democratic Party in Northern Virginia is taken. They brought in collective bargaining for public employees, and if the Democrats were to take the legislature, I think any limit the Dillon rule puts on what jurisdictions can do will be out the window. And life as we know it here and enjoyed in Northern Virginia will be gone forever. The thing I like about Ken is he's not an ideologue, but he's a pragmatist. He's a conservative, but he's a pragmatist. He's a problem solver. He did this on the Leesburg Town Council. The reason that we have rail coming out to Dulles is because Ken cast the deciding vote in the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors to bring it out there at a time where we would never have had that opportunity if we didn't act at that time. So he's been somebody I've been happy to work with. As Frank said, this is a winnable district. It's a tough district. Northern Virginia politics has gotten a lot tougher over the last decade and a half. Part of it is just the way the coalitional elements in the different parties have kind of switched spots. Part of it is the changing demographics of these areas. But part of it is we just, I think a lot of Republicans have just given up. And they don't get out there and put on the bumper stickers, put the signs in the yards and get out and work. That the great 20th century philosopher Yogi Berra, I think said, 80% of life is just showing up. And we haven't always shown up in other areas. Maybe it was Andy Warhol, but anyway, a famous person said that. I think it's incumbent on us to show up this year, take that literature door to door, put those signs in the yards where we have bumper stickers, do that, talk to your neighbors. We've got a candidate in this district that we can be proud of, we don't be ashamed of it, but more importantly, they got a candidate that is an embarrassment. I don't think he knows much about the legislature or anything. His big issue was mandating the face masks for young kids during the COVID crisis, and that's coming back again. But I just talked to Chap before I came in the door, and he said that's the issue that really beat him. He put the Peterson Amendment through that took away that mandate. More kids under 16 years old died of drowning in swimming pools than from COVID. And yet the overreaction from government on all these kind of things and the impingement on freedom, I think, was palpable for all of us. So I'm happy to be here for Ken. For my friend Frank Wolf. Frank has known me from being a wannabe to being a has-been. He's known me through that whole time, and it was just always a pleasure to serve with him. We were great partners for this region, not just in expanding transportation opportunities, closing the Loudoun prison. We did a lot of things together that benefited the community. They weren't necessarily ideological, but we roll up our sleeves and get things done. That's what we need in the legislature here in Northern Virginia. We have real problems right here. Transportation, education that need to be addressed and solved. Ken has that track record. He's not newbie to politics. He's been involved before. He's got the tools and the smarts to be able to do it. And Jean-Marie, I'm just going to ask you to come up and to say something for just a minute. I know you didn't want to say anything, but she held this seat for a while. This seat has flipped back and forth between the parties over the last 40 years, I think. And this is one of those years with a lot of new territory and new candidates where this is our opportunity to take it back.
Frank and Tom have said everything that needs to be said. I said to Ken, you know, you have 4 speakers, you lose people after about 20 minutes. But I'm really happy to be here to support Ken, and I'm so grateful that he is willing to run. A good portion of this district was my old Senate district, so I kind of feel like it's part of my family, and Frank and Carolyn know how that feels. You leave it, but you never really leave it. But I want to just thank all of you for being here, for supporting Ken. Money is so critical in running a campaign. You just can't advertise, you can't send any mail, you can't do anything without it. So thank you so much for being here for Ken and for contributing to his campaign and helping him get his message across so people know who he is and that he's really the one that they want to have representing them. I just can't imagine being represented by his opponent. He's very nice personally, but I like to call them regressives. I don't know what's progressive about regressives. But he's really very socialist in what he is saying, and that's something we don't need in our country, never mind here in Northern Virginia. So it'll be really challenging, and I don't think he will. I think the Democrats will have a challenge, and he's in their caucus too, and I'll just leave it at that. So thanks again for being here and for supporting Ken, and we wish you the very best, and we look forward to you representing us.
Okay, we're going to now have Arthur Pervin, who's going to make a 1 or 2 minute speech, followed by Non-Win.